Assalamu alaikum everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about something that's been on my mind for some time now. And it's how people interact with each other through social media, the digital space. And, one of the things that really got me to think about it is not only my experience with it, but it's how I used to always advocate for social media. I always stood by it. I was like, yeah, it served its purpose. It was created to connect people, and it did just that. So it can do no wrong, right? Silly me. But as time went on, when the world is going through whatever it's going through right now, where now the only way you could really meet people for the most part, if you don't go to work physically or study physically, is through the digital space, right? And one of the things that's really interesting and what really stood out to me over the last few months while interacting with people on there is how people have created, what atmosphere, what environment they've created for themselves digitally. Now, for example, and it builds off the previous video I made about tolerance, but now, for example, it's a sin. It's like you're punished for it, essentially, for disagreeing with somebody. It could be politically, or something you've discussed politically, socially, religiously. As soon as there's the slightest hint of a disagreement when you're interacting with somebody digitally, what is their response? Well, it's very simple. Their response is just block you and move on, because you're nothing more than just a profile on an app, and that's it. And that's really interesting. Like, a lot of people, based on that, and based on some of the people I've come across in person, they've developed avoidant personalities where as soon as something that they believe strongly in is challenged, they don't know how to react. And I believe that they don't know how to react simply because they've never ever had to think about why they believe in something so much. They've never had to defend it. They've never thought about it. They've never broken it down. It's one of those things where they just believe in it for the sake of believing in it because everybody around them does. And they make sure that their environment, be it on social media, be it the people they surround themselves with in person, also aligns with that as well. Now, that's drastically different to how people communicate in person, because whenever you communicate with somebody in person, what happens? You agree on certain things, you disagree on certain things, but guess what? More often than not, you agree to disagree and you move on. You don't ghost the person. You don't just up and leave, because you know for a fact that you would look stupid if you did so, right? But with the digital space in mind, people do it all the time. We're deemed the ghosting generation because it happens so often. Now, that's not to say that back in the day when they were writing each other letters that they just didn't respond one day, or maybe the letter got lost in the mail and they think the other person just didn't want to respond, so they just stopped, and whatever confusion could come out of that. Now it's more apparent and it's at a higher rate because it's all digital, it's all immediate, and so on. So it's just the odd new age of how we're expected to interact with one another digitally. And other thing is, when you talk to people and you respond within a short period of time, oftentimes it's deemed to be like you're desperate, when in reality it's just that you have the time of day to respond at that time. Because if you were to play the game where you decide not to respond, then you would never talk to them ever again. And so we touched on that if we were to talk in person, it's not the same as talking digitally. And that's just been a lot of my personal experience nowadays. Like, one of the things I do when I talk to people is just to get it out of the way is I just fish for a disagreement. I want a disagreement. I don't want to waste my time talking about things that we agree on, and then as soon as there's a disagreement, you just disappear and you essentially, waste my time, waste a lot of people's time. So that's something to make note of. You need to tolerate other people's opinions, beliefs, way of life, whatever it might be. You don't have to accept it. Just because somebody questions something that you're passionate about does in no way mean that it's horrendous and that you just gotta cut them off and move on. That's blasphemy, right? That's hearsay. One of the things that it's got me thinking about is, what long-term impact is this going to have on society? When we are a product, essentially, of the digital age, because a lot of our lives are on there, and more so for the newer generations coming up, they're raised on the technology. What is going to happen to us? What is going to happen to the way we interact with people? Or would you just shut people down and ostracize them for simply disagreeing with you? And I do believe the digital atmosphere, the social medias as a whole, played a major role in this, because not on purpose, but it's just a byproduct of their creation, right? And do we have hope as a society to reverse the damage that's been done by social media, even though it's done its purpose? I don't think so. I don't believe so. I believe that this is it. Like, this damage is permanent so long as the digital space is there. When you don't give people the room to interact in person, when you live in a day and age where people are increasingly intolerant and do not support opposing views because it hurts their feelings, and they want you to walk on eggshells at all times, I don't believe that it'll get better anytime soon. I believe that we have a long road ahead of us. I believe that there are a small amount of people who still have their head on right and believe that it's okay to talk to people, discuss things with people, disagree with people, and so on. And then, where do we go from here? Is another thing I wanted to touch on. Do you just become a hermit? Do you just not interact with people anymore, be it digitally or in person? Because now they've developed the confidence that they've developed digitally, and it's being translated to in person, and now you can't say certain things or question certain things around people without them throwing a fit. Personally, I don't believe so. Personally, I believe that if we, the people, if we're the ones that oppose this ideology, that we believe that we can talk to people and be just normal with people in our interactions, I don't believe that we should just become hermits and just sit this one out. Absolutely not. Complacency with regards to what's normalized in a society is not okay. If there's something wrong, we do need to be outspoken about it. We need to make sure that we stand our ground and we continue. We're not going to give in to people who easily get offended and demand apologies or just ghost. We're not going to give in to that narrative. You want to ghost, that's fine, that's up to you. You want to be a grown adult with an avoidant personality. You're incapable of defending your beliefs or your stance on something. That's up to you. But in reality, in the real world that we live in, not the fantasy world that you've created digitally and that you're trying to translate into the physical realm, we can talk about anything and everything. So that's just something that I wanted to get off my chest. Now that I think about it, as a society, as a civilization, we're a lot more disconnected than we really think, simply because our interaction is now digital and not physical. And obviously that's led to many other things that I'll discuss in later videos, but those are just the things that came to mind. Let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about the complacency of people in society today, to where they pave the path to people to just always demand apologies whenever there's a disagreement, to just run away from having a dialogue with people? And let me know what your experiences are. Like, which side of the fence are you on? Do you agree or disagree? And if you have any solutions, it's like, what solutions do you have that you think could possibly address this issue that's created because of social media? So with that said, thank you for your time and have an awesome day.